Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, Taken, I'm sure by the title I was very clear about this one, but this is not a Dreamcast core in the way you're going to think about it, but it is also a Dreamcast core in the way in which part of the Dreamcast is running on a Mr. FPGA or Jurassic DE10 Nano board. And no, you're not going to be living in a universe where you have a full-speed Dreamcast FPGA core on the DE10. This is experimental work to lead into what could be something like this one day, because we definitely have other FPGA boards on the actual horizon. There's a lot of other FPGA chips out there that would be powerful enough to run the entirety of what a Dreamcast is in FPGA code, but the DE10 Nano is not that. But that was never the plan whatsoever. This is definitely experimental, getting the GPU running on something like the Cyclone 5 FPGA chip on the DE10 in and of itself, so then it can be pivoted up and actually made to work on new platforms. So outside of the footage you're seeing right here, which is not running on Mr. FPGA obviously, you're going to live in a universe one day in which there actually is a Dreamcast FPGA core, and this is some of the foundational work to get there. And just so you know, this is made by a couple different developers, Electron Ash, Korn, and more specifically for the bulk of the work here, Skimp, or SKMP. That is his username, so I'm going to go with Skimp for the rest of the video. That just seems to be more fun. So what you're actually looking at is a hybrid between actual FPGA code as well as software emulation on ARM cores. Basically, the PowerVR GPU, or functionality of it, not complete, is actually running on FPGA on something like Mr. We've seen that in other projects that people have been talking about, having an entire Voodoo on the Jurassic DE10. That way it can actually just be played as a graphics card. Now don't think in the future you're going to be playing something like hybrid emulation on Mr. FPGA. This is purely experimental, so don't get upset and say, but I don't want emulation in my FPGA boards. That's not what we're talking about here. It is how it currently works to get to someplace different in the future. And don't think we're talking months here. We don't even really have a board out there that's going to have the logic available to run something like a Dreamcast. Even if you take some of the largest FPGAs on consoles right now, stuff like the Mod Retro M64 and the Analog 3D, we're still not talking about the amount of logic elements to fit an entire Dreamcast in. But in like 3 to 5 years, as those parts get bigger and the price comes down, then we would be living in a scenario in which something like a Mr. 2 or a new FPGA board could in fact run something like Dreamcast at full speed with enhancements 100% fully in FPGA code. But don't forget that takes a lot of work to get done, and it's not like just because the hardware exists the code will suddenly appear out of nowhere and be playable. But taking a look at something like Daytona USA here, this is a mix of footage from different stages of development. I've been meaning to talk about this one, but I needed just a little bit more content. It is recognizable as Daytona USA. Yes, the quality is poor. Yes, there's definitely graphical hitching and some other glitches here and there, but the fact that it's even outputting an image, let alone one that is recognizable as a game, is a testament to Skimp, Electron Ash, as well as Korn being able to even get this far. It really does mean that obviously a Dreamcast FPGA core is possible once the hardware exists out there to be able to actually run it. Now don't get me wrong, the hardware does exist now, FPGA chips large enough to fit the entirety of an FPGA core for Dreamcast, but we're talking about high 4 figures, maybe even low 5 figures for the price of that board, so it's not something that could be feasibly done that you'd actually want to purchase, because of course you can just grab a Dreamcast, an optical disc emulator, and mod it for HDMI, and get everywhere as close to something like an FPGA core. But this is for fun, it's for experimenting, and because the Dreamcast FPGA core has long been considered the brass ring of the community out there and what they want, I'm definitely still stoked for it. And just so you know, this video is going to be completely devoid of any sort of soundtrack sample, and that is because there is no audio in any of these examples. But if you want to play with this, and again, I say play with, experiment, whatever word you want to use, it is not sit down and have fun playing a video game, there is a core available. You can check it out over on the Mr. FPGA Discord. It's under the Dreamcast channel. And again, it's not something that you're going to sit down, even the lowest power game on Dreamcast, and really play from start to finish, but you're going to see basically day zero stuff of what a Dreamcast FPGA core could be. And honestly, in some of these examples here, if you just took a screenshot, you would probably say to yourself, you know what, I could trick some people into thinking that was jet grind radio or jet set radio, depending on where you live. But of course here, there's only tires on the ground, there's an entire vehicle missing, and that is because the implementation of the GPU on Dreamcast is not complete in this FPGA core. So for the fact that that's missing there must be some issue in the code or a missing call to the actual hardware that just isn't implemented yet. And even though this is a slideshow by any standard, the fact that it's a recognizable slideshow in and of itself is impressive all the same. Or something like Gauntlet here, clearly a lesser powered game, you can get to the point in time where things start looking ever so slightly faster. Now, some of this stuff is done on the DE10 Nano, some of it's done in simulation for the DE10 Nano, and a lot of times you have to reverse engineer the hardware with signal tap and other functions to even understand what the actual GPU is doing in the first place. Because yes, we have software emulation of the Dreamcast, we have Flycast, we have Redream, you'll even know that's getting old on the tooth at this point in time, but those are all basically high-level emulation of what something like the Dreamcast GPU would be doing. Getting the code in FPGA is a completely different process. It's basically like reverse engineering the actual silicon and figuring out what it's supposed to be doing, and then getting that into logic. It is way more complicated and probably not even 100% correct as what I just said. I am just simplifying this down for you so you can kind of understand. Even at the end of the day, an FPGA core and a software emulator might seem like they are identical. They are doing the exact same thing, but they are doing them in completely different ways. We're taking a look at the introductory sequence here to something like Crazy Taxi. You can see there is a lot of issues in the actual video. There's a lot of repeating frames, probably down to an issue with the frame buffer would be my guess. But I always love kind of going through this footage and just talking about where we can go in the future. Because FPGA gaming isn't going anywhere. Even if 2026, it's definitely taken a little bit of a slowdown in the public consciousness. What I guarantee you all it's going to take is a new FPGA board out there with dedicated developers to port the cores over we already have and to make more newer powerful cores for this to 100% jump back into the lead as far as an amazing retro gaming concept is concerned. And if there was something like a Dreamcast FPGA core that could lead that charge, that would make everybody extremely happy, even if, again, buying a Dreamcast and modding it is one of the easiest and cheapest things you can do. Well, I guess putting in the HDMI mod's actually a pain in the ass. It's not for the weak of heart, but otherwise, even if you buy one pre-modded, you're not talking about the most expensive thing in the world. But wouldn't it be fun to have a reality in which every single piece of Sega hardware was represented as an FPGA core? Because we obviously have Master System, Game Gear, we have the 32X, we have the Sega Saturn, we have the Sega Genesis, we're just left off with the Dreamcast, and it really is the only hardware manufacturer to have multiple different consoles and different generations where this could be done for, because obviously we're not going to be seeing a PlayStation 3, 4, or 5 FPGA core anytime soon. We're not going to be getting an Xbox 360, 1, or Series X FPGA core anytime soon. But for Sega, this could happen. It would be absolutely amazing, and I would love to see that. And taking a look at Sonic Adventure's intro here, again, not the fastest thing, although this is older footage, I'm kind of mixing and matching, but the real takeaway here is the fact that you can look at this and recognize, even without the textures, if you are a fan of the game, exactly where this footage is coming from. And there really isn't any speed difference, at least here, as you play around with some of the textures and different polygonal features. But this is something, again, I don't want anyone to think, and I was very clear in the title and throughout this entire video, that I am saying FPGA Dreamcast Core is here for Mr. and you're going to be playing games. Although I'm sure someone's going to go down in the comments and say clickbait because I said Dreamcast and FPGA in the same sentence, and it wasn't 100% perfect and buttoned up. This is a learning experience so that when that hardware is available and it is selected for a new FPGA gaming project, people can sit down and take this knowledge and experience and code base and expand upon it on hardware that actually could run every single component of a Dreamcast as an FPGA core. Because right now you have the implementation of the PowerVR GPU, not complete, sitting in the FPGA chip, and you have everything else as hybrid emulation sitting over on the ARM cores. And it's not like they're the most powerful ARM cores either. I'm sure that's holding this back ever so slightly as well. But at some point in time, and I think maybe like 36 to 48 months from now, there's going to be an FPGA chip out there and like 500,000 plus logic elements with some really powerful ARM cores on it that will come down enough in price where it could be on a consumer board, either from somebody like Jurassic or somebody who makes it like Taki Udon and Retro Remake, and that actually could lead us into the universe in which Dreamcast and FPGA is possible at a price you would want to pay. That's kind of an interesting question. If you could right now go grab your wallet and put X amount of dollars on the table for a Dreamcast FPGA console that did nothing but Dreamcast with 1080p or 4K out, HDMI analog support, and the ability to play every game perfectly, what would your kind of spending habits be? I would say I'd probably come in maximum for $500, maybe $750 if that FPGA chip was also available to load up other cores so that other people could enjoy it. But that's the news on Dreamcast and FPGA. I've been getting a lot of requests on this one. It just took me a few days to sit down and kind of think how I wanted to approach the video because I knew full well people would see Dreamcast and FPGA in the same title and think it was time to play. But short of that, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.